Have you ever felt like you're performing a role, even in your closest relationships? Smiling when you're breaking inside, nodding when you want to scream, pleasing when you long to be seen. That's not you. That's your persona. Carl Jung believed that every person wears a social mask, a carefully crafted image we show the world. But what if this mask wasn't built just to fit in? What if it was actually built to survive? In this video, we'll dive deep into one of Jung's most powerful and misunderstood concepts, the persona. But more importantly, we'll reveal how this persona might be protecting your wounded inner child, the part of you that was once rejected, abandoned, or deeply hurt. Here's what you'll discover: why your persona often forms in childhood to hide pain. It's about finally becoming you, the self you've always been, beneath the layers of performance, fear, and protection. Stay with me until the end of this video, because understanding your persona could be the beginning of your deepest healing. Was your persona a social mask, created to protect your inner child? Sometimes we look in the mirror and wonder if the face we show to the world is truly ours. We smile politely in conversations that drain us. We pretend to be okay when we're falling apart inside. We learn to become who others need us to be: strong, kind, pleasant, agreeable. But underneath that surface, behind every nod, every smile, and every perfect answer, something else quietly waits: a deeper truth, a hidden wound. Carl Jung called this surface identity the persona. It's the version of ourselves we present to the world, the role we play, the image we craft, the personality we polish for approval, connection, or even survival. Most people assume the persona is simply social conditioning, but Jung went further. He believed that this mask is often born from something much more vulnerable: pain, especially the pain of the inner child. Because when we are young and we experience rejection, neglect, or emotional chaos, we unconsciously begin to build defenses. We learn which parts of us are unacceptable. We absorb silent lessons about what gets love and what leads to punishment. And little by little, we suppress our real feelings, our fear, our sadness, our anger. In their place, we create something safer, a version of ourselves that adapts, pleases, performs, and protects. But this adaptation, as helpful as it may be in childhood, often becomes a prison in adulthood. We wear our persona for so long that we forget we're even wearing it. We start to believe that the mask is our true face, that the performance is our real personality, that we are confident, agreeable, selfless, and in control, when underneath we are simply exhausted, longing to be seen as we really are. In this journey, we will explore the deeper layers of the persona, not just as a social tool, but as a psychological shield that may have formed around your most vulnerable self. You'll discover how the mask was built, what it's hiding, and why it's so hard to let go of it, even when it no longer serves you. This is not about shame. This is not about blaming yourself for surviving the only way you knew how. This is about compassion. It's about gently peeling back the layers and reconnecting with the child within, the one who once felt unsafe, invisible, or unloved. Because healing doesn't come from destroying the persona. It comes from understanding it, integrating it, and giving voice to the parts of you that were once silenced. This is the beginning of that path. Let's walk it together. How your persona was formed in childhood and why it still protects you. You probably don't remember the exact moment you began to hide. There wasn't one single day when you decided to build a mask. It happened slowly, gradually, with every judgmental stare, with every emotion dismissed, with every time being yourself led to rejection, punishment, or silence. Carl Jung teaches us that the persona is not inherently bad. It's a necessary adaptation, a mask we wear to function, to fit in, to be accepted. It's how we survive in a world that often doesn't welcome the raw, unfiltered truth of who we are. But here's the real question: why would a child ever need to wear a mask? Because many of us grew up in environments where emotional safety was not guaranteed, where expressing feelings led to punishment or shame, where our needs were inconvenient, where crying meant weakness, anger meant disobedience, and vulnerability was simply too much for the adults around us to handle. So we learned to trade authenticity for approval. If I'm polite and quiet, maybe they'll love me. If I'm helpful and smile all the time, maybe I won't be ignored. If I never show weakness, maybe I'll be safe. This is how the persona begins to form, not as a conscious choice, but as a survival instinct. It protects the most fragile part of us, the inner child. That child still lives inside you even now. And that mask? It may have helped you navigate your childhood. It might have helped you succeed in school, find friends, avoid conflict. But over time, it can become a prison. The persona becomes so good at its job that we forget it's a mask. We believe we are what we show. The confident achiever, the people pleaser, the peacemaker, the caretaker. But beneath all that, there is often a deep, unspoken exhaustion. A quiet longing for someone, anyone, to see the real us and love us anyway. Jung believed that the path to healing and individuation begins when we become aware of our persona, not to destroy it, but to reclaim what it has been hiding, the emotions, the truth, the self. Because here's the thing, the persona isn't evil. It was created to protect you. But now, as an adult, it may be keeping you from living fully. When you always say yes to avoid conflict, that's your persona. When you suppress your tears so you don't seem too emotional, that's your persona. When you play the strong one who never needs help, again, that's the persona. And underneath it all is often a child who still feels like they have to perform to be worthy. This is why so many adults feel empty despite external success, why they sabotage relationships, overwork themselves, or feel disconnected from joy. Because the mask got stuck. The adaptation that once kept them safe is now preventing them from feeling alive. Jung also warned that when we identify too strongly with our persona, the shadow grows. All the feelings we weren't allowed to feel, the parts we were told to hide, they don't disappear, they go underground, they show up in anxiety, in rage, in numbness, in compulsive behaviors. And until we face the mask, we can't free the child behind it. So how do you begin? It starts with tenderness, with becoming curious instead of judgmental. Start noticing the moments you abandon yourself to be accepted, the times you say, "I'm fine," when you're not, the habits that feel safe, but also draining. These are clues. They lead you back to the child within. And here's the beautiful truth. Your inner child doesn't need you to rip the mask off. She needs you to gently lift it, piece by piece, with compassion. To tell her, you don't have to pretend anymore. I see you, and I'm not going anywhere. The more we reconnect with our true self, the less we need the persona. Because we realize that worthiness was never conditional. That being too much or too sensitive was never the problem. It was the world that didn't know how to hold us. You are not here to be a version of yourself that others find palatable. You're here to be whole. And that means feeling, speaking your truth, saying no without guilt, creating boundaries, crying when your heart aches, laughing too loudly, being silent when needed, living not to impress but to express, and maybe, just maybe, showing the world your real self will finally attract the kind of love that doesn't need a mask. This is not a fast process. It takes time, patience, courage, but every step you take toward authenticity brings you closer to peace. The real kind, the one that doesn't rely on performance, perfection, or approval. Your persona was once your protector. Let it rest. Let your truth speak now. Signs your persona is controlling your adult life and how it silently sabotages you. You're functioning. You show up. You work hard. You're kind. People trust you. But deep down, there's a strange emptiness, like you're playing a role in a story that isn't fully yours. You laugh on cue. You say what's expected. You carry the weight of everyone's needs. But when was the last time someone truly asked, "How are you, really?" Carl Jung described the persona as the mask we present to the world. It's the version of ourselves that feels safe, accepted, and likable. But when the mask becomes fused with our identity, we begin to live a filtered life, one that suppresses the very essence of who we are. Let's explore the signs. You feel emotionally disconnected even in close relationships. You're always agreeable even when it costs your peace. You constantly feel exhausted, but can't explain why. You're admired for being strong, but you secretly wish someone would take care of you for once. You struggle to say no without guilt. You often play the peacemaker, even when your own boundaries are being violated. You avoid conflict like it's dangerous. You don't really know what you want, only what's expected of you. If any of this feels familiar, it's not because you're broken. It's because you've been living through your persona for so long that it feels like your real self. But that self, the person you show to the world, is curated, polished, controlled, and somewhere underneath it is a deep longing to be real, even if it's messy. One of the clearest signs your persona is running the show is emotional suppression. You've taught yourself to stay calm, to not overreact, to keep it together no matter what. You might pride yourself on being unshakable, but emotions aren't problems to fix. They're messengers, and when ignored, they don't disappear. They store themselves in your body, your nervous system, your subconscious. Another sign is people-pleasing, the chronic need to keep others comfortable, even at your own expense. You might smile when you're hurting, apologize when you're not wrong, stay silent to avoid rocking the boat. This behavior often stems from early conditioning where love felt conditional. If you had to earn connection as a child, by behaving, helping, achieving, then your persona became your passport to love. But love that requires a performance isn't love. It's survival. You may also notice perfectionism. You always try to get everything right, not because you enjoy it, but because you fear the consequences of failure. The persona tells you, if I'm flawless, they'll never reject me. But perfection is just another mask, one that suffocates creativity, freedom, and joy. Sometimes the persona disguises itself as competence. You're the one everyone counts on. You fix things, you solve problems, you never ask for help. But behind this role may be a deep belief that your worth depends on being useful, that being needed is safer than being truly seen. And then there's chronic emptiness. Even if your life looks good on the outside, there's an ache inside. A voice that whispers, "This isn't all there is." That voice is your authentic self, trying to be heard. So how do we begin to step out from behind the mask? First, we must stop demonizing the persona. It protected us. It kept us safe. But now, as adults, we get to decide when and how to take it off. Start by practicing emotional honesty with yourself first. Ask, what do I truly feel right now? What do I need? What am I avoiding? Give yourself permission to feel, even if it's inconvenient, even if it doesn't make sense. Then, practice boundaries. Saying no is hard when your persona is wired for approval, but every boundary is a declaration. I matter too. Boundaries aren't about pushing people away. They're about building relationships that don't require self-abandonment. Challenge the belief that you must always be agreeable. Disagreement isn't danger, it's authenticity. Speaking your truth, even softly, even imperfectly, is how you reclaim your voice. Reconnect with your desires. Not what you think you should want, but what lights you up. So many people go through life fulfilling roles that were never theirs, careers, marriages, friendships, identities, because somewhere along the way, the persona took over. This journey can feel disorienting. When you start removing the mask, you might feel exposed, vulnerable. You may even grieve, because for years that mask was your shield, your guide, your protector. But here's the miracle. Behind that mask is someone beautiful, whole, worthy, enough. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Not the version of you that pleases others, not the one that always smiles, but the one who dares to show up as real. You don't have to do it all at once. Start small. Tell the truth in a safe space. Rest when your body says stop. Cry when your heart breaks. Laugh without holding back. Let people see you, not the polished version, but the whole you. This is the beginning of individuation, of wholeness, of freedom. You were never meant to wear a mask forever. Your soul is far too vast, too sacred, too wild to be confined. Let the mask rest. Let the child behind it finally breathe." How to integrate your persona without losing yourself. You don't need to destroy the persona. You don't need to kill the ego. erase the mask, or start over from zero. You simply need to bring light to it, to look at this carefully crafted identity you've carried for years and ask, is this truly me, or who I had to become to survive? Carl Jung never taught that the persona was the enemy. He taught that it becomes dangerous only when we forget it's a mask, when we believe we are the role we play. Integration doesn't mean rebellion, it means reconciliation. It means walking back into yourself with compassion and saying, thank you for protecting me. But I'm ready to be more than just likable. I'm ready to be real. So how do we begin the integration? We start with awareness. Become aware of when you're performing, not to judge yourself, but to notice. Are you adjusting your tone to make someone comfortable? Are you suppressing a truth to avoid being seen as too much? Are you nodding in agreement just to maintain peace? These moments matter. Every time you override your truth for the sake of being accepted, your inner child quietly watches. She learns again that her authenticity is unsafe, that approval is earned through self-erasure. Next, begin practicing selective vulnerability. The persona wants to protect you from rejection, but ironically we feel most alone when we're hiding. Vulnerability isn't about oversharing, it's about authenticity in safe spaces. It's about saying, I'm struggling today, or that hurt, or this is who I really am. When you start letting even one person see you unmasked, your nervous system begins to heal. You realize, I can be me and still be loved. Then, reclaim your emotional truth. Ask yourself, what am I really feeling beneath the surface? So often, the persona teaches us to name safe emotions. I'm fine, I'm tired, I'm a little stressed. But under that may live anger, grief, loneliness, longing. Start journaling from the voice behind the mask. Let your inner child speak without interruption. Let her write about the moments when she first felt unseen, unheard, afraid. Because the mask didn't appear randomly. It was born from wounds, childhood moments when the real you wasn't enough. So you learned to be polite instead of honest, strong instead of soft, quiet instead of curious. Integration means allowing both to exist, the strong, adaptive self who knows how to survive, and the gentle, messy, emotional self who longs to be seen. Here's the truth most people never hear. You don't have to become your authentic self. You already are her. She's just buried beneath layers of performance. So much of our suffering comes from believing we have to become something more, but healing often looks like becoming less filtered, less perfect, less performative, more present, more honest, more human. Another step in integration is embodiment. The persona lives in the mind. It strategizes, analyzes, calculates, but your true self lives in the body. Practice grounding techniques that bring you back to yourself. Meditation, breath work, movement, stillness. Notice what your body feels when you say yes to something that's actually a no. Pay attention to the tightness in your chest when you're not being real, to the tension in your jaw when you hold in emotion. The body never lies. Let it become your compass. Then there's inner reparenting. This is perhaps the most sacred part of the journey, because beneath the persona is the child who put it on. She needs to know she's safe now, that she can come out, that there's no longer a need to hide. Speak to her, literally. Sit quietly, close your eyes and say, you don't have to perform anymore. You don't have to earn love. You're allowed to rest, to be messy, to take up space. I love you, not for what you do, but for who you are. This dialogue isn't symbolic, it's soul repair. Each time you do this, a part of you returns home. And finally, practice authentic expression. Start small. Post something honest. Speak your mind in a conversation. Create something that reflects the real you, not the version of you that fits neatly into expectations, but the one that's rough around the edges, bold, unfiltered, alive. Authenticity is not a destination, it's a daily decision. And every time you choose truth over performance, alignment over approval, and integrity over image, you reclaim a part of your soul. Carl Jung wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. But it is also the most liberating. When you integrate the persona, you don't lose your social self, you free it. You allow it to serve you, not control you. You can still be kind, professional, warm, thoughtful. but not at the expense of your truth. You can still be strong, but with softness. You can still wear the mask when necessary, but now you know how to take it off. And beneath it, you'll find someone radiant, wild, whole, and finally free. It whispered, "If you're perfect, maybe they'll love you. If you stay small, maybe they won't leave. But now, you are not that scared child anymore. You are the adult who can hold that child. Speak for her. Protect her. You don't need to keep performing. You don't need to keep editing your truth to fit inside someone else's comfort. You were never meant to become acceptable. You were meant to become whole. And wholeness includes every part of you. The softness you hid, the tears you buried, the fire you silenced to keep the peace. This is not a call to burn your mask. It's an invitation to hold it gently, thank it for its service, and place it down when it's time to be real. There will still be moments when the persona tries to return. That's okay. Healing is not perfection. It's remembering. Remembering that behind every socially acceptable smile, behind every nod of agreement, there's a self-longing to be seen fully, not just liked. Carl Jung taught that individuation, the path to your true self, requires confrontation with your own shadow, your wounds, your masks. And now, you are ready. Ready to stop asking, "Who do they want me to be?" and start asking, "Who was I before I forgot myself?" If this message reached you, it's not by chance. It's because some part of you, buried, maybe forgotten, just took a breath for the first time in years. Let her speak again. Let her move again. Let her come home. You don't have to do it alone. We walk this path together, one layer at a time. And if this message spoke to something deep within you, share it. Someone else may be silently waiting for permission to take off the mask too. Your healing helps others remember their own, and that perhaps is how we all come back to life.